Welcome back to Don's Life. Welcome to the channel. Thanks for joining today. Today we're going to unbox, talk about, try out, take a closer look at this guy here. I've been looking into portable power solutions for a while now, and now I partnered with Bluetti so we can take a closer look at this product. Let's go. One thing I like about Bluetti already is they give you extra unboxing. In here should be our warranty card and user manual. Warranty card, user manual. Read this. This would be our AC charging block. And we got our bag of goodies. Oh, nice little strap, hold it all together. I'll show what these do in a moment, but this goes to your charging block, and these are for some of your charging accessories. All right, let's plug it in for the first time. All right, we have it plugged in for the first time. We are at 62% charge state. We're using the AC power. You can see it's feeding at 386 watts of input. We should be able to get this charged up if it's at 63% now, a little over an hour. So that's exciting. Now let's talk about some of the features that this has, and in some cases what those features mean and if they're of any benefit. First, let's talk battery chemistry. So inside here is a lithium iron phosphate battery, which lasts a lot longer than lithium ion. So that means after 3,500 or more charging cycles, you'll still have 80% efficiency left in this battery, and that could be well over a decade. Let's talk about our power options. First, we have 2,000 watts of pure sine wave AC power. That's also 4,800 watts of surge. So if you're running power tools, compressors, air conditioners, anything with that initial surge, this is going to keep the power delivery quieter, cleaner, great for sensitive electronics, and much more efficient. And since this is a battery, you want to make sure that you're getting the most out of it. It does have a 2,000 watt hour capacity, but because you have this really fancy battery management system and everything being regulated, and also the inverter having to be controlled when you're using AC power, you're not going to get the full 2,000 watt hours. It's probably closer to 1,600, 1,700 based on the research that I've done. Again, this is just unboxing and doing a feature review. We're going to do some longer term testing and definitely give you an update, but you're not going to quite get 2,000 watt hours. That's just what it can hold. But again, it's going to use some of that power just to have the unit operational before you're plugging everything in and using it. Now this has 17 outputs. Let's see if we can spot them all and explain what each of them does. Now you'll notice right off the bat, if you took a closer look at some of the panel labeling, all of them say what the output ratings are, the capacity for each of those plugs. So the fact that they're all labeled that way is good, because then you can check the device you're plugging in and know if it'll be compatible with that plug. Now I should say right off the bat, not all of these are accessible right from day one unless you bought some optional cables, which are available for some of these. So let's start on the DC side here. This would be an example of an optional connector. You get an aircraft connector here, and that'll give you access to 12 volts, 25 amps. 25 amps is pretty solid. That's a good rated plug there, but you need to buy the adapter for that. We have our conventional 12 volt accessory plug there, or cigarette light adapter as a lot of people call it, and that's rated at 10 amps. Down here we have our DC 5521 connectors. We have 2 of them. This is common for other accessories that you may want to connect, including adding another cigarette lighter, but that's only going to give you 3 amps for each of those plugs. And then we have a USB-C connector here rated at 60 watts to charge devices. We have 2 USB plugs here rated at 3 amps each, 2 more right there. We have 6 AC plugs. They're all the same, and they're all rated for 100 to 120 volts. So you can run all your AC items off of there. And then on the top, we have our 2 wireless charging pads for inductive charging of those type of devices, so usually your cell phone. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Now we have 7 ways of charging this up. Out of the box, we're using the AC adapter. That's probably going to be the most common when you're first setting it up for the first time. But we do have this aviation cable here. It's got the collar to lock it on. Just line it up, clips in, and that gives us an XT90 connector for all of these cables that came with the unit and some that didn't. So first we have the connector for solar panels. So this would connect to the XT90 connector like this, and this would connect to our solar panels using the MC4 designation. You can also charge it off of AC or DC power off of your generator. You can also hook it up directly to DC current with optional battery clamps to a standalone lead acid battery. Alternatively, we could charge it off of a 12-volt socket for our vehicle and charge it like that. And probably something I'll end up doing is I can simultaneously charge solar panel with AC, or you can buy an extra AC block and you can do AC and AC, provided you configure it properly for the higher current in the menu. Now, I'm no stranger to gas generators. I actually have a couple really good ones for running our holiday trailer when we're off grid. But when it comes to quiet, this would be the way to go. And it's eco-friendly. You don't have to haul fuel around. And if you think about it, it's more cost-effective longer term. Now, as one would expect, because this has a battery in it, it does weigh a little more than maybe a portable generator of the same size. It comes in at 60 pounds, which doesn't really matter to me because I'm freakishly strong. So because this is just the unboxing video and a feature review, I haven't been able to do any long-term testing yet. That video will come, but I have been thinking of what real-world applications would this fulfill. So not limited to my list, I think that camping and off-grid use is kind of the first one that comes to mind. If you paired this with a solar panel, if you charged it in your vehicle when you're getting to and from your destinations, I think that it would be pretty much power whenever you need it, provided you manage it accordingly depending on what you're hooking up to it. I think for me, because I do a little bit of off-roading, especially if I get somewhere where I'm not going to have proper cell coverage, that type of thing, I would feel comfortable having this, so I would have power on demand if I had a problem with the vehicle. I think an obvious one, and a lot of people would probably think this, but we do experience power outages where I live, so having this to run appliances or critical devices that we need in a power outage situation, so those emergency conditions, would be great to have. So here's one I think that may get overlooked. Because this has pass-through charging, I can leave it plugged into my home all the time, much like it is right now. And for example, I could plug everything in my home office into here. I run a YouTube channel, I have files that are very important to me, we run a small business. If we suffer a power outage, which we have when those computers are on, it can damage them. So the fact that this is now an uninterrupted power supply for my equipment that's going to last much longer than the conventional ones that you'd find at the electronics store, I think is a huge bonus. So let's just look at a couple more things on the outside before we start using the battery management system and go through the menus here and see what it has to offer, and then plug some devices in to start using it. So the build quality is really, really nice. These carry handles are convenient to be able to carry it around. All the research that I've done, a lot of people really like this screen because it tells you everything you need to know. But overall, the fit and the finish, the construction, this thing's easy on the eyes. It's a really nice looking unit. Okay, so here's the home page as it is. Each of these icons are interactive. So you can see we're pulling in power right now. We're at 79% charge. I can click on that there. It's the AC adapter. We have this input voltage of 55.4, about 7 amps of current, and about 380-ish watts. If we had DC power connected to pull in and charge the battery, all those specs would be here. And then we have our DC load. If the DC output was on and we had something connected, all those specs would be here. Lots and lots of detail, which is awesome. And then our AC load if the inverter was turned on and giving us our AC outputs. And here we have our settings. So we can decide our voltage. We're going to be 120 based on where I'm living. We can change our AC frequency, 50 Hertz to 60 Hertz, we're 60 here. Our DC input source, we can change to have it the car or the solar panels as an example. We'll leave it on the car for now because I don't have the solar panels yet. And then eco mode, yes or no. If you turn on eco mode, it's going to turn off the inverter access for the AC power, which will save you a lot of energy. If we hit the next button down here, we have more settings, our language, the buzzer if you want it on or off, date and time, so pretty straightforward. Going back to the main menu, we have the data, we have fault history I'll go to first. We haven't had any, which is great, but that would show up here if we had. It would tell us what happened, when it happened, the code. We do a little research and then clear it once we figure that out. And then we have our battery management system maintenance. We don't really have to worry about anything here. Our state of charge, 80%, but we can just see some basics when it comes to that. And then our inverter and charger info, depending on what we have hooked up, we'd have more access to that information. What I really like though is it gives us a system temperature in both Celsius and Fahrenheit. I have been charging this now for half hour or so, so it's probably a little warmer than it would normally be, but that's only because we're receiving a charge at this point. Now just a reminder, in case you missed it earlier in the video, this system will draw some of its own power. If you have the AC on, it's going to be running that inverter, and that will take away from the full 2000 watt hours. So again, you're probably around 1600, 1700 watt hours of usable capacity. And that's just based on the research that I've done. I haven't tested it for a whole year or anything. That information will come as I long-term test this. It's also important to point out that this should run properly as long as you're keeping it above freezing, so 0 degrees Celsius or 32 Fahrenheit. I'm gonna finish letting this charge to 100%, and then we're gonna plug in various devices and see what happens. Well, we're pretty much at a full charge. I've unplugged it already, so we're just running off battery power. We're at 98%. We're going to turn the DC circuitry on. You hear a click, now it's on. These are now live, and these are live on the top. So why don't we start with the phone, put that on there. Oh, it just lit up. That means it's charging. And this should tell us what the load is here. Oh, we got 2 watts, 4 watts, 5 watts. Seems pretty normal, 6 watts. So it's gonna stay in that range there while it's recharging the phone. We're up to 8 watts now. Now we have our fridge freezer combo. We're going to plug it in using the cigarette lighter adapter. And then now the power is on, and we are going to max cooling so it kicks on faster. Should kick on in a second. And when it does, we should see what type of watts it's pulling. It's kicked on. You can see it jumping up there. So there we go. Once that gets the temperature, it should stop pulling as much power and start cooling all our goodies. So while we have the fridge freezer out, let's switch over to AC power. So I'm just going to turn the DC off for now, so we're not going to use it. We're going to turn the AC inverter on. It is now live, and we are going to plug in the fridge freezer again using its adapter to draw AC current. So we'll just plug into any of these ports. The panel's on. It's in max. It'll kick on and then show us what the draw is. Okay, it's just kicked on. It uses much more power when it's doing AC. Interesting. We can charge our power tools. Charging away. You know I like wrapping vehicles, case in point. I've always got to have my heat gun. So on max we're running almost 1800 watts. On the low setting, we're about 72 watts. Now this would be not really for me because I'm a little hair challenged these days, getting older. But we're almost 1500 watts at full speed with full heat with a hairdryer. Just a reminder, with heavier equipment such as a vacuum or any appliance that's going to draw extra current in the beginning, remember this is good up to 4800 watts of surge to give you that extra power. And I think that's for a couple of minutes. Most devices aren't going to pull that much extra current for that long a period, so you should be okay. But let's just do a quick test. When I first turn on the vacuum, you should see the draw actually spike higher than what it would when it's just under normal use. So let's turn it on. So you saw a spike there, about 1700 watts. I did some other tests earlier, it went to 2200 watts. So it actually went double of what its normal draw typically was. So just keep that in mind, this is set up for that. All right, we'll turn our DC back on, try our USB-C, get our tablet charged up. So we're pulling about 9 or 10 watts, 12 watts with this tablet. Well, I think we'll stop it there. That is the unboxing and feature review of the Bluetti AC200P. I'm really excited to get this out there and put it to some real world use. I know this isn't new to the market by any means, but in my research, it has shown to be a strong contender with what's available out there at these price points. So if you want more information, I'll leave a link in the video description below. You can check out what Bluetti has to offer. If you decide you want to purchase one, there'll be some links there as well. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're not a subscriber already. We will be taking this to the lake and putting it through some use when we're camping. But if you like today's video, hit that like button. Please consider subscribing. We'll talk to you next time. And don't forget to turn it off when you're not using it.